Energy Community is an international organization that brings together European Union, which is only one member state of Energy Community, and there are some other, you see yellow members, former Yugoslavia, minus Slovenia, minus Croatia, which was our member up till 1st of July this year, so we are very unhappy that we lost them, but we congratulate them to enter EU. And Moldova, Ukraine, and some observers, among them Turkey, Armenia, Georgia, Norway. Georgia is now becoming a full-fledged member, so it will step into the place of Croatia, and I believe in the future we will get new members as well, because Energy Community represents a wider Europe, which once when designed in 2005 wanted to bring together or to merge electricity and gas market of European Union and neighborhood countries. So this is why our institutional setting is relatively similar to European Union's institutional setting, which you can see that as European Union has a ministerial council, we have ministerial council as well, and European Union has their only one voice. So Commissioner Oettinger is sometimes, has the same voting right as let's say, minister from Serbia or from Ukraine or whatever. Then we have a permanent high-level group which meets several times per year. It's like COREPER in Brussels. We have a regulatory board which is kind of a mini ACER and not with the same mandate. We have Energy Community Secretariat, which is kind of a mini European Commission. I'm representing it. It's seated in Vienna, and we have different fora as European Union has them. In the beginning, as I said, Energy Community was established only to merge electricity and gas markets, but slowly through the time, additional tasks were given to Energy Community. So nowadays we are dealing with electricity, gas, infrastructure, renewables, energy efficiency, oil, statistics, social issues, and so on and so on. And our legal framework, or our acquis, is mostly presented there. So there are 3 directives in gas, 2 in electricity, 3 in environment, and so on and so on. So all these directives, which are partly adapted, were once adopted by our Ministerial Council and nowadays represent our legal framework. So European Union somehow widened its acquis communautaire also to Energy Community member states. And we as a Secretariat are of course active in monitoring, reporting, advising, and we have even judicial function, a small one. We can start infringement procedures against our member states, and of course it has happened in the past and it will happen also in the future. These were only introductory words about Energy Community. I was invited to present our projects of Energy Community interest and how to foster proper investments in needed infrastructure. So Energy Community 3 years ago started to create its energy strategy, which was made through scenarios. And the initial idea was to adopt a common strategy, and then on top of this to recognize which energy projects are of common interest for this region. You have to imagine that this region, some countries from this region were 15, 16 years ago still in war with each other. So it's even much harder to get or to recognize a common interest comparing to European Union, where countries are now peacefully cooperating already for 60 and more years. And this is why I think that adoption of common strategy and adoption of common list of projects of energy community interest was a big success, because it was done in a very, very short time. Idea why to first create energy community and then later to adopt this strategy and list of projects of energy community interest was, of course, to create a space with clear rule of law, with common procedures, common investment environment, to attract proper investments, of course, and to somehow close the gaps and loopholes which could emerge in energy supply. So energy strategy was, I mean, even my predecessors, because I'm there only for a year, as a majority of you know, strategy first analyzed three potential scenarios. One was current scenario with current trends. So what would happen if current trends in development of the energy sector continue? Then minimal investment cost scenario. What are the minimal costs required to ensure that there is adequate supply of electricity and gas to meet demand? And then more luxurious, let's say, low emission development sustainability scenario. What would happen if this ambitions would be deeper or higher? On the end, Energy Community Ministerial Council adopted minimal investment cost scenario, which showed that from now, or from 2012 up to 2020, 39 billion euros of investments are needed in this area. Of course, the biggest stake of this number belongs to Ukraine, which is really, really investment hungry. But a little bit less than half of this number belongs to Southeastern Europe. And this is, of course, an enormous number which needs coordinated action to somehow ensure it. So then when this strategy was adopted, we started to create, this was in December last year, a list of projects of energy community interest. So which projects will fill this gap which is needed or which emerges in this regional dimension? We started with the process which of selecting this. So the first question was why projects of energy community interest, and perhaps I should spend some sentences or some words about European Union first. So we are somehow following, but not completely copying or mirroring the European Union approach. European Union had this 10E lists for several years. You know, I believe you are aware about this, and nothing happened. It was just a list of projects. And then it's, I think, 3 years ago, European Commission started with this initiative to bring a regulation on trans-European energy infrastructure. So this regulation, which was adopted this year, earlier this year, finally brought some instruments, some tools how to foster, first how to find or how to recognize the projects of common interest in European Union, and then how to help them to start living. Slovenia was quite active in this process. I think 8 projects from Slovenia are recognized as energy projects of common interest. And as I said, we in energy community started to somehow, with somehow similar process. We, as I said, were not completely copying European interest, because some other things were important in assessment of the projects in our process. So projects are needed to enhance security of supply, to increase energy efficiency, integrate more renewable energy sources, and create a properly functioning regional energy market. These criteria are not exactly the same as in European Union, but are somehow mirroring specific situation in our region. And then what happened till 1st of January this year, exactly 100 projects were submitted by project promoters, and we hired independent consultant, company Kema from Netherlands, which was involved also in assessment of projects of common interest in European Union. And then we developed our own methodology, how to where we used intensively cost-benefit analysis. And here I can say we were much better than European Union, because projects of common interest, which are on European Union's list, now are not properly assessed through cost-benefit analysis. And we included also projects for electricity generation, not only projects, infrastructure projects, but also projects for electricity generation, because we find out through the energy community strategy that not only new electricity lines and gas pipelines are important to enable functioning of the market, but also new production units are needed, because our region is really lacking behind in proper investment volume. And so this is an overview which projects were proposed from different countries, different numbers. The most ambitious was Serbia, and this is a short overview of our methodology, which is much different than European Union's one. You can see that we used change in socio-economic welfare. I mean, we weighted different criteria differently. Change in socio-economic welfare was weighted with 47%, enhancement of competition with 19%, improvement of system adequacies with 17%, progress in implementation with 11%, and facilitation of renewable energy sources with 6%. And this methodology was widely discussed because, of course, results of, designing of such methodology very much influences on the results. So if, for example, facilitation of renewable energy sources would have 47% instead of 6%, then perhaps only projects related with renewable energy sources would be declared as projects of energy community interest. So this methodology was somehow adopted through a discussion which was, let's say, scientifically, politically agreed, and but there on the end this was a wide consensus. And what happened on the end, 35 out of 100 projects were selected as, or were listed as, projects of energy community interest. 12 out of them are at the same time on the list of projects of common interest, so EU's list, and this shows how interlinked are our countries from energy community region with European Union's territory, and you will see this later on the map as well. And there is a list of all these projects. I will not read it. Everybody will have access to this list. These are projects in electricity generation. These are projects in electricity infrastructure, projects in gas infrastructure. The most important one is TAP, Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, on which we are very proud because we, in Energy Community Secretariat, somehow helped to bring it to a final positive decision about investment. And then we even had we selected two oil infrastructure projects of energy community interest. So now if I go back, you can see distribution on the map, which are electricity generation projects of energy community interest. So mostly they're in the middle of Balkans, Serbia, Bosnia, one is in Montenegro, two are in Albania. Then in electricity infrastructure are these projects. You can see there are connections with EU member states, so with Croatia, with Italy as well, with Romania. This is why I said that 12 out of them are at the same time on the list of projects, EU's list of projects of common interest. These are projects in gas infrastructure, where TAP is our prize winner, let's say. And there is also this reconstruction of the whole Ukrainian gas pipeline towards west. And as I already said, two projects in oil infrastructure. So the question is, or I mean, when I was invited, please tell something about fostering measures for proper investments. Here you can see on one side you have EU, on the other side energy community. EU has adopted this regulation 347 through 2013, which will be with golden letters written in the history of fostering proper investments, I believe, because it introduces many revolutionary changes. Today, Minister was talking about that something is tomorrow on Slovenian, on the session of Slovenian government. I didn't understand exactly, but I believe it is appointing or the one-stop shop. So which institution in Slovenia will be one-stop shop? I think deadline to tell to European Commission to send this information to European Commission, it was extended. Expired last week, if I'm not correct. So perhaps Slovenian government is late for a week, but doesn't matter. What will happen after this? So all the projects of common interest in European Union will have to be put or brought into the space in 3.5 years. So from the beginning of planning, so Mr. Ribic was talking earlier about 10, 15 years. So projects of common interest will have to be brought into space in 3.5 years. 3.5 years. And if not, the project promoter could sue or could get even, the country will be fined. So if Slovenia will not organize itself as it should following this regulation, this will be costly for the state budget. And I believe that appointing a one-stop shop will tremendously change the approach also in all other projects which are not projects of common interest, but the states will see that it's possible to do it in 3.5 years. And even if you talk about distribution projects or whatever, electricity generation projects and so on, there will be a proof that it is possible, if the state is well organized, it is possible to do it in 3.5 years and not in 10, 15, even 19, like, for example, this Krško-Beričevo electricity line. Then so this is EU. In energy community, we haven't adopted Regulation 347 yet, but I think we will do it on next Ministerial Council in October 2013. Then in EU, they established a special fund. It was approved by European Parliament just yesterday, so it's very new one. It's CEF, Connecting European Facility, and it has 5.12 billion of euros for projects of common interest for the time between 2014 and 2020. So each of these projects is in a position to get not only money for studies, like it was the case in 10E, with 10E projects in the past, but will be in a position to get additional money for co-investment from European sources, from European budget. We in Energy Community, unfortunately, don't have such a budget, but are discussing now with DG Enlargement, and I think the discussion is going on quite successfully, to relocate some funds which are already existing in so-called Western Balkans investment framework to be kind of CEF instrument in Southeastern Europe. So even we will perhaps have Connecting European Facility fund for energy community countries, but this is not decided yet. Then the second thing, which we have already done, EU not yet, are regulatory measures. So energy regulators are somehow suggested to adopt proper measures, because many things can be done through tariff methodology. And when we made an analysis through our energy regulators in the region, what they are doing to foster proper investments, the answer was zero. I mean, really zero. No one energy regulator had any idea how they could properly treat most wished or most needed investments. And then we send them around kind of guidelines. We were copying different supportive measures from different EU member states, except from Great Britain, which is too complicated. And these measures or these incentives, investment incentives, which can be adopted by energy regulators, were even adopted as a list on our Ministerial Council, and this is why I say that we are a little bit advanced in relation to European Union, because European Union will adopt such a list, I believe, next year. And I believe it will be not very much different than ours, because we were picking up ideas from the same pool. And then coordination, implementation, monitoring, which will be done in EU by ACER and by European Commission. We will, of course, introduce, I hope, under umbrella of Energy Community Secretariat in Vienna and our ECRB, Energy Community Regulatory Board, as well. Regulatory measures proposed to support PECIs, I was just talking about them. Regulators were invited to react properly, and we invited European Commission to propose Regulation 347 to be adopted next year on our Ministerial Council as well. So there are some potential financial mechanisms to support projects of energy community interest, about transposing or reallocating funds in Western Balkans investment framework. I already talked. There are some other options which are under examination. We are in close cooperation with DG Enlargement in European Commission, and there are long-term loan guarantees, promotion of select PPP operations, risk-sharing facilities, and project bonds as well. So with the involvement of EBRD, EIB, and potentially even with Marguerite, which is a fund which is now limited only to EU member states. On the end, benefits, loopholes, problems. I don't need to reiterate how many unsuccessful tries in the past happened, even with individual projects of energy community interest, which are now listed now among this 35. Investment decision processes are cumbersome. For example, in Serbia, an investor needs over 20 different permits, so Slovenia is not the worst case, I believe. But all this can change in the future, I think, with establishing one-stop shop necessary under the regulation 3.4 Then more focused approach is needed, and I hope that this list of projects of energy community interest, which will be of course renewed, like projects of common interest will be renewed every 2 years. Our list, I believe, will be renewed every 3 years because we are a little bit less developed and less prepared. Our energy community member states don't have 10 years network development programs yet as obligatory. But anyhow, as I said, some of these countries were in war 16, 17 years ago. Now they have projects of common interest. And I believe it's a big step. And all these nationalistic, national strategies, which are a big problem also in EU member states, will somehow have to step back and give some priority to common projects. Current electricity markets in Western Balkans are very small, not very attractive for foreign investors, but we are of course working in introducing common rules following the third energy package, and hopefully as soon as possible also introducing network codes as they are now prepared in European Union. The biggest problem which I still see are regulated and non-cost reflective prices, which will be abolished in Serbia, I believe, with 1st of January next year. In Macedonia, I hope a little bit later, and in many other countries in our region, unfortunately, they will still be obligatory for next few years, but we are trying, of course, with a strong cooperation and with the pressure of our bigger brother, European Commission, to press them to introduce liberalized markets as soon as possible. So I'm optimistic, and I think despite all the problems which we have in European Union and even bigger problems in energy community, things are moving in a right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kopač. Just one question. You were saying that projects of the common interest, they have 3.5 years of timeline. What about your projects, regional projects?
At the moment, they don't have any timeline yet, but as I said, I hope we will adopt Regulation 347 next October on our Ministerial Council, and after that, we will have 3.5 years as well.
Okay. And what about the potential fund? When exactly will that be the case?
Western Balkan Investment Framework, you mean the transition of it into a connecting European facility? I hope this will happen in next months because new financial perspective is relevant for the years 2014-2020. 2014 will start very soon, and therefore also the decision about the way how to use these funds has to be adopted by European Commission very, very soon.
Okay. So thank you.